Well, hello, hello, and welcome to the Charlotte Mason Enrichment Podcast. I'm your host, Elise Thompson. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. Today's episode is dedicated to all of my new homeschool mamas, homeschool families that are out there. This podcast episode is for you. We are in the middle of our series called Conference Chats, where we are highlighting the sessions that will be presented at this year's summer conference. It's happening July 17th and 18th in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and virtually. And today we're talking about Charlotte Mason for beginners. And I'm excited to welcome Sarah Logsdon. She's going to be presenting this session at the conference. And Sarah's been at this homeschooling journey for quite a while. She's already graduated her first student and well on her way to graduate her second this coming school year. And so I'm just grateful that she's taken this opportunity to just bring her wisdom and experience to this topic. So Sarah, welcome to the podcast episode today. So glad to have you.
Thank you, Elise. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so man, if you are new to homeschooling and Charlotte Mason, you are on our hearts. I feel like I wasn't there that long ago, and I am just always so grateful for people like Sarah and other people in our community that were just so gracious to just share their wisdom and their experience with me as I began this journey. And so, Sarah, why don't you just kick us off with just telling us a little bit about your homeschooling journey and how you even found out about Charlotte Mason?
We decided to homeschool from the very beginning. My daughter's 20 now, so that was a long time ago. And I just had a friend who introduced me to Charlotte Mason. So from the very beginning, I at least knew something about that and knew that that's what we wanted to try. And it's definitely changed, evolved through the years as I've learned more, as my kids grew, as we added different parts to the feast of the education. But it's kind of been the backbone of what we've done all these years. So I'm really grateful, that I had a friend who introduced me from the beginning and that we got to start off that way.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's a great thing that you highlighted is that you started off with understanding and knowing about Charlotte Mason from the beginning of your homeschool journey. Do you feel like that is the only way that somebody could um, start educating and using Charlotte Mason's principles, or is there hope for people who maybe have had, whatever experience they've had with traditional schooling and they're like, okay, we're going to do something different.
Oh,
What
for
do you think about
sure.
those
You can
people?
jump in at any point with Charlotte Mason. It's definitely not something you have to start from the beginning. I think it's always easier, and nice when you can, but don't be afraid to try it, even if your kids are, well into their school. It'll be a shift for you and for them. But getting those new habits down, like it really is a life-giving, beautiful way to educate. And I think what we did at the beginning evolved and changed as I understood more. So I didn't start out doing it perfectly. I'm not perfect now, but we have learned what works in our family with our kids, each one being a different person, and finding those rhythms that worked for our family. So it's always work of assessing where you are, what's going to work this year, and how you can implement those principles. So it's never too late. It's never a bad time.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, and for people who are like brand spanking new, how would you describe what is a Charlotte Mason education? What is it?
Well, Mason had lots of ideas, a beautiful philosophy of education. So, like digging into that philosophy is really important to understanding what it looks like on a day to day basis. A few of the highlights that I like to tell people if they're new to it is she believed children were just individual, special people. They were born persons. And so, having that respect for our children as we come into education is really important. They were not vessels that we're just going to fill with knowledge. They're not a slate that we're just going to write on, but they come with their own desire to learn. And we're going to be able to really feed that well with a Charlotte Mason education. We're going to give them this feast, lots of subjects, some things they might really love, some things they might not love quite as much, but we're going to give them this opportunity to learn as much as we can about God's world and make all these different relationships with things and people and books. And we're going to give them great books, living books is what Mason called them, with beautiful ideas. and they're not going to be dry textbooks. You're not going to be doing worksheets. You're not going to be doing a lot of the stuff that you think of in a normal classroom setting the way you probably were taught. This is going to be a shift. You're going to read these books. You're going to narrate, which is just telling back what they've learned. And it starts out orally, it moves to written as they get older. But they are doing the work themselves. They're having to ask themselves the questions, what did I just read? So that work that they do really means they're learning stuff. So, what you and I did, Elise, was probably cram for a test, take the test, move on and forget the test. And so like I can think of lots of classes, even in college, where I'm like, I don't really know what I took away from that.
Yeah.
But I feel like my kids have had this chance to really make connections with things and to really practice this narration. And this stuff sticks with them. And it's fun now that I have a kid in college to get to talk with her about a book she read, in high school that like she feels so connected to that. Those are things that she holds on to. And to hear her talk about other students that don't really know how to read and remember because they haven't been reading and narrating all along. It's been really fun on this side of the journey to see that and know like, hey, that really worked. That idea was important.
That's really cool. Man, great, great description and just great, just describing what a Charlotte Mason education is. So I know we talked before, like whenever you started almost, 20 years ago, versus today, it's a lot easier now to kind of be introduced to Charlotte Mason, with social media, podcasts like this. Like there's just all these, like, I guess, gateway opportunities to learn about it. But I think when you heard about it, obviously came from a friend, the internet maybe wasn't as robust as it is now. And so you had to learn basically from the source of reading Charlotte Mason's volumes. She has 6 volumes that she's written just to kind of share about her thoughts on education. But now it's like, you can come to a conference, you can listen to a podcast, you can take a course, you can follow somebody on Instagram and learn all about, Mason's thoughts and ideas. So obviously when it comes secondhand, it can get a little perhaps watered down or maybe misunderstood. So what are some misconceptions that you maybe recognize that people may think, oh, I know what Charlotte Mason education is, but maybe not so much?
Well, I think just maybe the biggest thing is just stopping there when you've got a few of the like key how-tos, like, okay, I know I need to read living books. I know I need to narrate, and I know we need to go outside, which is not something I mentioned earlier, but she was very big on time out of doors and nature study and taking nature walks. So I think it's easy to kind of hit some of those big things and feel like, oh, I've got it. And those are key. They are important. But knowing the philosophy behind that helps us to constantly evaluate what we're doing with our time and with our children. And there's more to it. It's a way bigger picture. So not missing out on it. Like that's great that we have all this stuff now. And you're right. There was not nearly as much stuff when we started in 2010. So there's a whole lot more now, just curriculums and resources and podcasts like yours, which are great starting points, but not stopping points. Like we should keep going and getting into her books takes some work. So I feel like reading her books is key and having community is key. So if you can have it in person, that's great. If you can't, there's just so many Charlotte Mason homeschoolers now compared to when I started. It feels like it shouldn't be that hard to connect, even if it's online, with some other people, because it's important to have someone else that you're talking this through. Like, what did you think about this? What does this look like for you? As we're wrestling out what it looks like in our own homes.
Yeah, that's really good. So what do you feel like are some of the things that might be challenging for people to embrace or to understand about Miss Mason's thoughts on education?
I think one of the things that you notice right away, if you're coming from pretty traditional to Charlotte Mason, is what I said earlier about textbooks and workbooks. So you're switching from that to this, we're going to read real beautiful books written by people who are really excited about the subject, and then we're going to narrate it. And that's a huge shift. But it can feel sometimes potentially like, how do I know if my kids are learning? I don't have a worksheet here to prove that they understood the key things that I think they should know.
Yeah.
And really the Charlotte Mason method puts the work on the children to say, what did you learn? And it may not always be what I think they should remember from that text, but we are trusting this whole process that we are that we are teaching our children how to pay attention and how to think for themselves. And over time, that means they're going to catch key ideas, right? But they are making their own relationships. And we are also trusting the Holy Spirit to work with them in their learning. And it is less about me. I'm not controlling this situation. I am providing the space for this to happen. And I'm helping them develop habits that will help them to create their own connections and their own relationships and their own learning that will last.
Woo. Yeah. So what I hear you say is control. That's hard. To release the control of, feeling like, you're the end all be all, one. And then two, that we can always predict what they're going to pick up from what's presented to them. Because I think sometimes when we have the worksheets or, the fill in the blanks, it's like we're kind of controlling what we want them to really think about and remember. But when you're, having them narrate back, it's kind of like, well, I won't know until they tell me, and I can't control and be like, no, this is what you have to.
You forgot that part that I thought was so good.
Yeah, I thought that was good. I think you should know that, but it's kind of up to them. And I think that goes back to respecting their personhood.
Yes,
absolutely. Can't control and dictate.
Yes. And there are definitely ways that Mason built in times for reflection and seeing what they've learned. She did exams after every term. So her schools were 3 terms. And after 11 weeks of lessons, you would have an exam week. And it again would be a really open-ended question about a book or a character that they had been learning about, and they would tell back. So you do get to see, 1, how well the book worked. Did my kid really connect with this? And 2, are they learning? What did they take away from this? So you still have times of reflection, evaluation, but sometimes it's not even evaluating your kid. It's the book. Like, did this work? Or is this a habit issue? Are we not listening? What can we do to develop this habit better? So there are spaces for evaluation, but it does look different because you're not getting out your red pen to check off, the answers. And I come from a background of being a teacher in a classroom. So it was different for me. I knew I didn't want that, but it was still hard to feel like, oh, are we getting behind? How are we doing? It just feels different.
Yeah. So there are those mile markers for those of you that, want to feel like you're accomplishing something. They are there. They just look a lot different than what you and I experienced in our educational journey. So, well, that's great. Okay. So what do you feel like people who are new to Charlotte Mason, what do you feel like are some of the mistakes or maybe some stumbling blocks that people can just be aware of, to say, hey, as your fellow Charlotte Mason friend who's been doing this for a while, don't do that. Don't do this thing. What would you say?
Well, I think some of the things we've talked about of not thinking you got to all figure it out at some point where we stop learning ourselves, because this job of teaching our children for me has been more than just my kids learning. It's been me learning along with them and getting to learn really cool stories from the books themselves, but also learning more about how to teach my children, how to do this thing, how to learn with them. And so not calling this figured out, moving on. I think, there's just a lot of ways that it can feel discouraging sometimes when you're homeschooling your children. And so not quitting when it feels hard, not being afraid to okay, we're going to start again. And we messed up this piece. We just dropped it this term, but we're going to pick this up and try again. So not letting those things that didn't go well, just completely throw it all out, but knowing if there's grace for that, for our kids and for ourselves, this is hard work for them and for us. And just knowing there's grace in that.
Yeah. Wow. That's really great advice, Sarah. That's really great advice, because that's real. Sometimes those days they can be discouraging. We've all had rough days.
Yeah.
Like Sarah and I are in the same community, and sometimes we meet every Tuesday at the park, and some days we walk in and we can just all tell.
Yeah. There's some commiserating going on.
It's a rough day today.
Yeah, we need the kids to go play.
I'm glad we made it to the park. So
yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's true because then it's like, you know what? We just got to keep plodding along and keep trying. And,
Yeah.
yep.
And I think
Sometimes,
there's seasons too. Like I think you and I have also been in a season of like with family health issues and parents and things that like for the last school year was a hard one for me
Mhm.
to feel like I was staying on top of things. I started a part-time job, like just things that are different than what had happened in the past for our family. And so I look back on last year and there are things I wish I had done differently. And also know like I was doing the best I could in that moment. And we're going to start again this next year. And it's okay if we don't get to like all the beautiful feast that we wanted to last year. Like there is still space for us to just keep learning and that my kids will keep learning. Like their
Yeah,
learning doesn't end with graduation. So I
right.
have a upcoming senior this next year. And there are many things I wish we could read this last year, and we will not read all of them, right? But we have developed this relationship with books and ideas. He will continue to learn just like I have in my life. So this isn't a stopping point. This is really just a starting point as we launch our kids into a life of learning that we hope they can take with them.
Yes, yeah. So good. I mean, it's what I share every time at the end of the podcast is like we never stop learning, we never stop growing.
Yes.
So that's such a good reminder, like this is not the end. Like we're gonna keep on going and yeah, we do the best we can and thank God the Holy Spirit fills in the rest, but we still do the best that we can. So just such good advice. So okay, well, I am excited for your session at the conference. Again, just, you know, having a heart for those people who are new and wanting to help them,
Yes.
you know, get on the right track, have just that community around starting. So share with us a little bit about what your session's going to cover at the conference.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy because I don't think you can jump into all the practical tidbits without some basic understanding of that. So she has her 20 principles. We're going to kind of highlight some of those pieces. Education is an atmosphere, a discipline, and a life are so important. And that discipline piece really connects to habits. So we're going to spend some time talking about habits and how important that is in our homeschool. Mason wrote a ton on this topic and it's sprinkled all through her books because she knew how important it was for our kids to not have to decide constantly whether they were going to do the right thing or not, right?
Mhm.
So we are going to help them develop good habits. So we're going to talk about that. That just provides this framework and structure that allows learning to happen. So we'll talk about habits. We'll talk about reading living books and what they look like, and we can kind of compare as well. I'm going to have some examples of what that looks like. We'll talk about narration and what that looks like. We're going to try it out a little bit. I love doing this for myself periodically because I'm reminded of how hard it is.
Yes.
We expect our kids to do this all day long, and then we do it, and we're like, "Oh man, I drifted. My brain, I forgot what
Right.
I just read." So
Yeah.
we're gonna do that so we can have some empathy for our students. We're going to talk about nature and time outside, how important that is to a Mason education, and I would say how important that is all the way through high school. Like one of the things I'm most thankful for is like my daughter graduated and we kept Tuesday park days until the very end. Like every Tuesday afternoon was hours outside for her and the same for my son. So I'm just thankful because I feel like Mason knew what she was talking about. We need time outside. So we're going to talk about some of those things. Yeah, and then just some practical tips like what subjects would you start because she really spread a feast and it can be really overwhelming to just throw all that at once when you're trying to figure it all out too. So things like picture study, composer study, Plutarch, what subjects do you want to try out this year? So there's going to be time as well in the session for reflection because I can't really tell you any of you where to start with this, but I can give you some tools and ideas and then you get to reflect what is something that I feel drawn to start and I'm going to try that one thing. And that's going to be your habit that you start this year. And then you can add as the year goes on, what do I want to try next? But knowing you don't have to do everything every term, that you get to ease into this and then things do become habit. Um,
Yeah.
I was thinking earlier when we were talking about just how that grace that we need to get through the year, like the habits that we have and that our kids have for school really have carried us through seasons that were harder. Like we
Mhm.
moved in the middle of a school year, we had babies a few times, and then we've had some family loss this last year. But like we knew what to do. Like when life settled back down enough for us to do school, we knew what to do. My kids knew what to do, and even if every little subject didn't happen, like those habits became just what we
Yeah.
fell back on.
Yeah, man, they are key and huge because then it's like, yeah. you don't have to think about like, what do I do next? It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just gonna do what I normally always do.
Yes. I'm going to read this and I'm going to narrate it. And yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's so great, and it's so great to see, yeah, when you kind of, aren't in your routine, like, how those just do become the default, so, man, your session's gonna be so great. I really wish I had that when I first started, so I know
Me
that this
too.
yeah. This is a gift, so if you're new, you realize, like, this is like gold, so, treasure it. So, what are you hoping that moms will walk away with, from your sessions?
I hope they'll walk away with some really practical ideas about what they want to try this year. And so I don't know where everybody's going to be coming from when they come into the session. It's for beginners, but I know that even that kind of has, levels of understanding of Mason. So like, that's why I want there to be some reflection time in this class, because everybody will come from a little different spot of what their understanding and background is. And so like that opportunity to think, what are the things I want to start with my family, and just kind of knowing like I can do this. And
Mhm.
also just the sense I hope that everyone will leave feeling like I'm not alone in this endeavor. Like there are people I can reach out to. There are resources, and also that the Holy Spirit is our guide for our children and for ourselves, and we're not having to walk this alone.
Yeah, that's so, so good. So, man, this session's gonna be great. So even if you're like, okay, I've been doing, I've been dabbling, into Charlotte Mason's, principles. Maybe it's been a year, 2, 3 years, maybe even 4 years. Like it really is gonna really lay a really solid foundation, um, for people who come, and then it will give you practical steps that you can implement right away. Another thing that's going to be great about your session and even just the conference at large is that there's going to be lots of opportunities to ask questions.
Yes.
And that's really key. I know, man, my best friend when I first started, she was like my mentor. I gave her that title. I don't know if she wanted that title, but I gave it to her. And I would text her like all the time, like just asking questions like, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
What do you think about this book? Or like, hey, this is what we're experiencing. Is this normal? Like we have all these questions when we're starting something new. And so it's so great to have opportunity to ask people who are a little further along in the journey to be able to ask those questions because it's probably something that they've experienced as
Yes,
well.
very much so. Like, I think the beauty of community is that you have a wide variety of people with different experiences. I'm thinking like even kids that like have different kind of needs, like it's going to look different in everybody's house, the things that you choose to do or the amount that you can do. So yeah, just knowing you've got people you can ask is really, really important.
Yeah. Yeah. So there'll be time in your class afterward and along the way for people to ask their questions. And then even in the afternoon, we're going to have a Q&A panel for people just ask those questions, things that they're experiencing or things that they just don't understand. And so it's going to be great. Okay. Last question, Sarah. If you could give a newer homeschool mom one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think just to give yourself grace, like I said earlier, I feel like that's the one like I need to hear, and I think most moms need to hear that. This is hard, holy work, and it's not an easy thing to do. And so just to know like there is grace in this. It doesn't have to be perfect for you to still have really great kids. And we just get to keep trying every day with the Holy Spirit's help to make a good home for our children and to make their education something that's really lasting.
That's great. Great advice. Give yourself grace because I feel like as moms, man, we can be hard on ourselves. Like, and
Yeah.
we can have such high standards, which is not wrong to have high standards, but it's like if we don't meet up to our high standards, like, how do we extend grace to ourselves? Like, we
Yeah.
can be really great at giving it to other people, but we can be worst in extending it to
Yeah.
ourselves. So
True.
it's
And it's
so,
easy to compare, but we all have really different families with different numbers of children or kids with different kinds of needs and different resources, financial or time. And we just can't start that game of
yeah,
comparison either.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
dangerous one. So, well, man, thank you so much for sharing about your session.
I'm
And if
so
you're,
excited.
yes, I am too. We are like 25 days away
No
from
way.
conference.
Wow. That's
It's
great.
wild. Yeah, I started thinking and planning about it like, on the tail end of last year, and we start launching, beginning of 2026. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're already like almost 7 months into the year. So it just goes
Yes.
by so fast. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I need to be there. Like, I need to be at the conference, whether you're coming to Tulsa in person or you're tuning in virtually, it's great this year. Virtually, you can watch every single session live. Well, I mean, you can't watch every single session live because they're happening at the same time, a lot of them, but you can tune in live to whatever session is going to be a good fit for you to listen to, but then you'll have access to all the sessions via replay. So you're going to get a lot of really great information. You're going to get a lot of good knowledge and learning from experienced home educators. And really, you can't do anything, like, you can't go wrong in joining this session, because what you're going to walk away with from being at this conference is something that would probably take you a long time to learn on your own. Like, I'm so grateful again for people like Sarah, who are so gracious with sharing their wisdom. Like, she's got about 15 years on me on homeschooling. So she's experienced things that I haven't yet experienced. And so what a gift to be able to be in community with her and to learn from her. And that's kind of what you're going to get when you come to this conference, is that you're going to be able to learn from people that are further along from you, in their journey of educating. But then it's a sense of community. And even if it is only for 2 days, like, it's going to be the best 2 days of your homeschool life. And so just want to encourage you guys to be a part of this conference. You can go to charlottemasonenrichment.com/conference to learn more about all the sessions, and also to get your ticket. By July 1st, in-person tickets are going to be closing so that we can make sure to have everything dialed in for that in-person experience. But we would just love, it would be just our joy and delight to have you to be a part of the conference. And so again, you can go to charlottemasonenrichment.com/conference to get your ticket, and you can use the keyword podcast for a little bit of a discount on your ticket. And so, man, we can't wait to see you, can't wait to learn with you. And so that's all the time that we have for today. And so we already kind of talked about it, but just like what Charlotte Mason said, it's so true that the only true education is self-education. So we're never going to stop learning and growing, and we will see you on the next episode.